I want to show you how you can make an inexpensive lav mic sound like arguably the industry standard shotgun mic, the Sennheiser MKH416. These are things that you can do at home with just a few easy stages of processing. Right now you're hearing the Sennheiser. Or are you? Or is it actually this inexpensive lav mic? Who can tell? Well, editor me, because I've been switching back and forth ever since the beginning of the video. Did you notice? Let me show you the technique. As ever, I've timestamped everything in this video so you can skip to the bits you like, no trouble. Any kind of comments, likes, subscribes really help the channel and I appreciate greatly. If you could do that, that would be amazing. I appreciate it. Another way you can support the channel is I have a Patreon where any funds go back into the channel. I buy gear, review the gear and give it back to my backers. If that appeals, if you'd like to support the channel, details below. This is what the Sennheiser MKH416 sounds like. No, it really is, I promise this time. I'm not switching around. It's very pleasing, very balanced, very familiar in a way, and it's easy to see why it's just so well loved. I did a video called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great After 50 Years? And I recommend you watch that if you want to find out more about that microphone. Now look, this is not the easiest sound to replicate, I don't think, for three reasons. You've got the frequency response of the mic, you've got the way that it rejects audio from the back and the sides, and then just the distance, the way that it's positioned in relation to me. And this is my lav mic of choice. You're hearing it with no processing whatsoever right now. It's actually the one that comes with the Tascam DR10L Pro, but to be honest, you could use any mic in theory, any lav mic. It's not bad sounding, just without processing. It just does have a kind of distinctly lav mic-y quality. Anyway, let's get on with the task of making this inexpensive lav mic sound like a way more expensive classic shotgun mic. Okay, so in my editor of choice, I've got my two tracks. I've got the dialogue track, which is from my microphone, which is fully processed. You know, that's been bounced down and I've imported that. I then got the lav track, which has nothing done to it. Here's what they sound like back to back, just untouched. I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? The first thing we need to do is reach for this plugin, and this is Match EQ, which is one that you find in Logic, but this is possible to do it in third-party plugins such as FabFilter, the Pro Q series. Here I'm just letting it play through and I'm letting it just learn what the lav sounds like, and you can see it's plots an EQ curve to represent that. Then in the reference tab I'm actually going to drop that file, the dialogue with the fancy microphone. I'm going to drop that straight into the plugin and you can see it's given us this EQ curve. Then clicking on the EQ curve tab and you can see it's given us this. This is, to my eye, looks quite extreme, so you know what, we can do some finessing here. I'm dialing down the intensity of this because it can be quite extreme to put that kind of EQ curve on something like this. It doesn't necessarily like it to be 100%. I find around 50% is pretty good. Here's the before and the after. I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? Next, I'm going to go ahead and kind of add the same plugins that I used to process the Sennheiser to my lav signal. So the first one is Soothe 2, and this is currently my favourite de-esser, and I'm just going to use the de-ess and that's that preset because it works brilliantly well. Next I'm going to add another plugin from OX Sounder, that's Spiff, and this is just brilliant. The preset that I really love is the Remove Mouth Clicks preset, and these two processes, the de-essing and the remove mouth clicks, I think are really important for lav mics because for some reason, maybe it's the small capsules, they tend to be particularly sensitive to those kind of noises and frequencies. So this is a must. Here's what that sounds like. I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? And then next I'm using compression, and this is something that I think really we should be doing every single time we use lav mics. Often people will record will film something with lav mics and not
use compression at all, which that makes absolutely no sense to me. It's one of the best things you can do to kind of make things more even and add a kind of classy kind of consistency to it. That's the thing, because our voices are so dynamic, they are built to be compressed. My favourite at the moment is a really inexpensive but very high quality plugin, the Klanghelm DC8C, and it just does everything you want. And I like the lead vocal control preset. I just dial that in and it works brilliantly. Here's how that sounds.
I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great?
Next, I'm adding another staple plugin for me, and that's the IK Multimedia Tape Machine 80 plugin. And this is, again, something that you might not consider adding to a lav mic vocal track, because I guess why would you? But it makes absolute sense. You know, this is one I obviously use this on the Sennheiser track, so this is, you know, by adding it to both gives it that kind of that in common as well. If I was to describe what this does, it's a subtle saturation. It kind of slightly compresses things in the top end, but in the most musical, pleasing way. And if you just want to sweeten a lav track, because often they're not very sweet, this is a great way to do that, and here's how it sounds.
I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great?
The last thing I've done here is kind of unconventional, but you'll see, hopefully you'll understand why. I've added an instance of Valhalla Room. It's a very good reverb plugin, but you can use any reverb for this. And you might be thinking, what are you doing? And that's fair. I've added this to add just the tiniest little bit of space. And all I'm doing here is I'm finding a very small sounding room, and then I'm dialing it down until I can barely hear it at all. And this is simulating the distance between what I had with the Sennheiser mic compared to a lav mic, which is obviously right here. Yeah, it's something if you can hear it, you've got too much, so you need to dial it back just a tiny bit. And it's just something that it adds, it helps with the illusion. Here's how that sounds. Yes, it is subtle.
I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great? I did a video on my channel called Is the Sennheiser MKH416 Still Great?
And that's kind of it. And look, due to all the physical differences here, the distance, the proximity, the huge differences in capsule design and size and all of that kind of thing, everything, it's going to be really, probably impossible to get it sounding 100% the same. But I do think we're somewhere in the 90-something percentile similar.
This, in theory, is a repeatable technique, because all you really need is a recording of your voice with, to be honest, any mic that you like. Your preferred mic. It doesn't have to be, you know, this Sennheiser mic. And then when it comes to the technique, you can just drop that file in and use it as a reference. Repeat all the other steps and you're done. Anyway, let's just sum up everything we've learned in this video now.
Match EQ is going to do the bulk of the heavy lifting here. It's going to sculpt the EQ curve to be similar to your target clip. De-essing and mouth declick, I think, are essential because they get us further towards that target tone of a more expensive microphone. Use compression to bring things further away from that overly dynamic lav sound. I like to add tape saturation, and that's just because it sounds classy to me, but let this be just a placeholder for applying any other effects that you would to your expensive microphone. Some really subtle reverb can give the suggestion of having a little more space that, for obvious reasons, you don't get with a lav mic.
Anyway, that's it for now. I have loved putting this video together for you as ever. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. My questions of the day are you going to try this? Is this something you're going to integrate into your workflow? What post-processing tips do you use for your post-processing? Let me know, I'm interested. I have hundreds of interesting videos on my channel, of which the algorithm has recommended this video for you, and you're going to love it, I guarantee, and you can sub here. I'll see you next time.